Sit back and listen to this extremely interesting story.
Camilla led Jen outside past Mike, who looked mildly interested in what was going on. That lasted only until the door shut behind the two women. He had other women to look after. "Where are we going?" Jen finally asked, pulling her arm away from Camilla. Camilla turned, coming close to Jen. "We're leaving before you get arrested. I told you how to do lap dances. You watched a few other girls do them before you left alone. The first hurt my friend and the second first. If baby hadn't come where when she did, you would spend time with him in front of everyone. So we, and by us I mean you, are going to repair some of the damage you've caused. Now get in the car." Camilla glared at Jen for a second. It was enough. Jen looked downward and walked to the passenger side of Camilla's car. "Get in the back seat," Camilla ordered as she got behind the wheel. "When we find Larry, you'll make him happy." "Do you understand what I'm telling you?" Camilla glanced at her. "Do you want me to spend time with him?" Jen asked, looking at Camilla in horror. Camilla bellowed out a laugh. "No, smile at him. Let him play with you. If he wants to touch you, let him. Push him away for all I care." "But I don't want to get the back seat dirty." Camilla realized it wouldn't be much longer and Jen would do whatever she was told. Camilla drove a few blocks before she found Larry. He was sitting on the curb at a convenience store. "Hey, Larry," Camilla yelled out the car window as she pulled up next to where he sat. "Hey there, sugar," Larry said, standing up and walking over. "What has a fine-looking woman like yourself out driving in this place? I was at the club and I saw what Mike did. I felt bad. Friends shouldn't treat friends like that. I was talking to a dancer. She's new, you know. Anyway, she felt so bad. She wanted me took her to find you so she can make it up to you," Camilla said, turning on the backseat light so Larry could see Jen sitting there. Jen did her best to look like she was interested in Larry, even though he creeped her out. She wasn't sure if it was the body odor, his disheveled clothing, or the slight-off look in his eyes. Camilla cleared her throat, bringing Jen back to the present. "Hi, Larry. I am awfully sorry for what Mike did back at the club. I was wondering if there was anything I could do that might make it up to you." Jen tried to ham it up for Camilla's sake. Jen was hoping that Larry would tell her to forget about it and that she could move on, but that hope was quickly crushed as Larry opened the door and climbed into the back seat. "Well, there won't be enough room for a lap dance. How about we go to the old Dalton warehouse? It's a few blocks over there," Larry said, pointing with one hand while holding Jen with the other. "That sounds perfect," Camilla said as she backed away from the store and drove a few blocks. In the rearview mirror, she could see that Larry wasn't wasting time with Jen. Jen's struggles within herself. This guy was disgusting. It smelled worse than anything she'd ever had. His hair was greasy and several of his teeth looked ready to fall out of his head. Before Donald forced her and his mother blackmailed her, she wouldn't be on the same street as this guy, let alone touch her. But now, not only did she let him, but the excitement she'd had before returned in full force. She could see his excitement. Jen wrapped her arms around Larry, holding him tightly to her, breathing in the foul smell that emanated from him as she sat on his lap. "Oh no, I can't do that," Jen thought, but she couldn't help but press into Larry. Jen was so lost in her excitement that she didn't notice the car stop until Camilla opened the door. "Okay, out of the car," Camilla ordered. Jen flung her arms around Larry, feeling disgusted with herself, slumping against the back of the seat as he pushed her away. As he got out of the car, she sat in the shadows in the back seat as he removed his clothes. "I'm going to feel sick." Jen thought, "Come on, Kitty. Don't keep this handsome man waiting." Jen noticed that Camilla kept her distance from Larry. "Here, Kitty, Kitty, Kitty," Larry said. Jen pushed her hair out of her face, a thing she did when she was nervous, and glanced at Camilla. Camilla wore a frown on her face, clearly becoming annoyed at Jen's reluctance. "I just need to get this over with," Jen thought as she slowly made her way to the door. "That's it. Come on, girl." "Good, Kitty." Larry kept encouraging her like Jen was an actual cat. "Bad," Jen thought as she got out of the car, stepping into the light of the only street light in the parking lot. Jen began to please Larry. She hoped to get this over with as soon as possible before her excitement put her in a position she would later regret. "I thought you said she felt bad for what happened," Larry complained to Camilla. "That is what she told me when she begged me to help her track you down," Camilla said. giving me a look before turning her attention back to Larry. Coming closer to him, she leaned towards him. One night, when she was drunk, she admitted to me that she really liked being made to do things. Said she left her husband because he wasn't man enough to do it. I don't know if this is her problem or not, but Jen heard Camilla and couldn't believe what she was hearing. She didn't tell her that, and she certainly didn't leave Stan because he didn't force her to. All the abuse she had to endure from Camilla and Donald, being forced to please this guy in the parking lot, was too much. Anger boiled over, and she started to tell them both when Larry grabbed her hair and forced her. Jen began to gasp at the sudden action, her anger evaporating, instantly changing to fear as Larry continued to force himself on her. She hit him, trying to get him to stop. He held her tighter, letting her know that he would stop when he wanted to stop. Not again, Jen thought, as tears ran down her face. She felt disgusted. So when I first saw this girl, I knew she wanted to be forced. I can tell you know. Larry told Camilla as he continued to pleasure himself with Jen's help. I guess you were right, Camilla said, recording the entire thing on her cell phone. Try not to break her, Camilla said as she moved closer. With her phone, it's not that easy to do, Larry boasted. Jen just fell to her knees, defeated, letting him do whatever he wanted. The rational part of her mind fled as he continued. Maybe this was all she was good for. A dark thought resurfaced. Larry demanded that she continue on her own. Jen complied, begged me to get what I want. Larry's grim, toothy grin glared at her. Please enjoy yourself. I need this so badly. Jen purred, surprised herself for saying it. Do it for me, Daddy, Jen said, getting closer to pleasuring herself. Camilla crouched next to Jen and pinched her. Stop pleasing yourself, Jen, Camilla hissed. Jen moaned as she stopped. She was also so close to what she wanted. Get it, Larry moaned. He grabbed Jen to hold her close and enjoyed himself. Jen caught whatever Lara gave her before letting her go. He stumbled back and sat down on the cement base of the light post, exhausted. See you around, Larry told Camilla as he started getting dressed. You owe me, Camilla said, jerking her head toward Jen, who was now curled up in the back seat crying. Larry looked at the housekeeper, unable to stop smiling as he remembered what he had done to her. Yeah, it was worth it, he chortled. Camilla drove off back toward the suburbs. About 10 minutes later, she pulled into a strip mall and parked the car. Come on, Camilla ordered as she left the car, not waiting for Jen to complain or question. The first stop was a restroom. Camilla took the family one and pulled Jen in with her. Okay, strip, she demanded. Jen was too tired to care. She followed Camilla's order. Camilla grabbed some paper towels and some soap and started scrubbing Jen down, trying to clean up as much of the filth that Larry had left on her as possible with what they had in that unclean bathroom. Reaching into her purse, Camilla pulled out a thin top and shorts. Put these on. They might not fight right, but they are better than these, Camilla said as she tossed the other clothes in the trash. Jen didn't argue. She never wanted to see that outfit again anyway. The outfit was a little big, but she wasn't going to complain. At least it was clean. Satisfied that Jen wouldn't be chased out of a store, Camilla grabbed her arm and they went to a few stores looking at women's clearance suits. Jen was forced to model blouses and skirts, most of which were too small for her in front of other shoppers. Several husbands received a whipping from their wives for paying too much attention to a brunette trying on outfits. Several short skirts later, Camilla was satisfied. Jen was left dressed in the outfit and taken to a shoe store. The clerk was an 18-year-old woman who turned shocked when she knelt down in front of Jen and picked up her foot. Quit making it hard on the clerk. Spread your legs a little wider, Camilla told Jen, loving how it further embarrassed the housewife. Jen wouldn't make eye contact with the young woman as she spread her legs even wider. The shoe clerk looked between Jen and Camilla, a slow smile showing on her face. As Camilla decided which shoes Jen was going to get, the clerk ran her hand over Jen before standing up and walking back to Camilla. If you ever get tired of her, give me a call. I've always wanted an older sub, the young woman said, handing Camilla a card. Camilla rolled the card between her fingers as she and the young woman looked at Jen, who blushed and looked at the floor. Jen was shaking as they left the shoe store, unable to get the hunger she saw in the eyes of young woman out of her mind. It was a short drive to their next stop, a moderately priced hotel. Go stand over by the bar. Your name is Kitty. I don't want you to tell anyone no about anything they want to do. Understand? Jen nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Fine. The only other rule is you don't leave the bar. Here's $20. Get something to drink. Now go. I have things to do. Jen looked at the floor and slowly walked to the bar. Camilla walked over to the reception desk, glancing over at the bar as Jen sat down and ordered a drink. The reception line had a few patrons in front of Camilla. It took almost half an hour before Camilla got to the front of the line. She had lost sight of Jen about 10 minutes into waiting, but she wasn't worried. The hotel was in a nice area and used mostly by business travelers. How may I help you? I have a reservation, Camilla said, handing over her ID and credit card. Ah, yes, 3 connected 2-room suites, each with a king-sized bed. How many room keys do you need? I am holding a meeting later tonight, and a larger group will be arriving from out of town. I will take a key to each room with me now. Here are the names of the other guests who will be arriving later. Please give them their keys when they arrive. No problem, MS. Please enjoy your stay. The desk clerk said, already reaching for the paperwork the person behind her was handing him. Camilla walked over to the bar looking for Jen. It took her a few minutes to find it. She was in the corner, along with 2 large Asians. Jen's eyes were closed as she enjoyed the sensation of being used in a public place. Well, that didn't take long. Camilla said as she sat down across from the 3 of them, Hey, this is a private party. The one on the outside said, And she's mine, so unless you want to finish with your friend there. Camilla pointed her head at the other man. I'm inviting myself. The 2 men said something she didn't understand, which pissed her off. Look, either speak in English or we leave. What makes you think we would let you leave? The man on the outside asked. He clearly thought he was in charge. I don't care where you come from. Here, I'm shouting, and you see all those people over there? Camilla pointed to a group of young people in the bar. They all become heroes, saving a couple of women from evil men. The man in charge scowled, but it was the other one that answered. He is just cranky. It's been a long day, and the business deal didn't go the way we expected it to go. The other man said, his soft, spoken voice soothing, unlike the harsh voice of his partner. The other man just picked up his drink and took a gulp, ignoring Camilla and Jen completely. We didn't know she was with you. The man continued, removing his hands from Jen as well. When I asked if she wanted to sit with us, she said yes. Actually, she said yes to everything but leaving with us. I assumed that she was waiting for you. Yes, I had some business to attend to, and it took longer than I thought. Kitty, get dressed and come sit by me, Camilla said. Jen buttoned her blouse and straightened her skirt as much as possible. The guy on the outside said something that Camilla didn't understand, but let Jen out. Camilla stood and motioned Jen to take the inside. Once the other man had sat back down, Camilla glanced around to make sure no one was paying attention. Seeing no one looking, she lifted the black tablecloth and pointed underneath. Jen swallowed hard but obeyed. Now, since you have felt her up, it's only fair she returns the favor, Camilla said as she sat down. Jen needed no instructions. She began to please her husband. The boy was much better than Larry, but he soon began to approach satisfaction. She did everything carefully so as not to stain his suit. The man ran his hands through her hair, stroking her head gently. There wasn't enough room under the table to move to the other guy. So the outside guy let the other guy, that Jen had finished with use, the bathroom, and quickly took his place. Once on the seat, he wasted no time and quickly got down to business. Jen just hung up when the man started getting rude. In a few minutes he was satisfied. He pushed Jen away and left the table. Camilla made sure no one was looking. You can come out now. Jen slithered out from under the table on the other side, taking up the spot she had been in when Camilla had found her at the table. Her face was blotchy, and her lips were deep red. Have fun? Camilla asked with a smirk. No, Jen replied without looking as she finished her drink. You know, pleasuring 4 different men in less than a couple of hours. That sounds like the start of a promising career, my dear. I think you should start paying, Camilla said gravely. Jen glared at Camilla. I'm not like that. Hush, Camilla said. Turning the phone so Jen could see it, she started playing the video. It was Jen spending time with Jesse. She brushed him off and she was with Larry. Jen's next hit was an Asian. One more stroke and Jen served the last guy. Are you recording me? Jen whispered, her face suddenly disappearing. Well, I wanted something to commemorate the fun we had. Not to mention if you get some crazy idea to go to power and try to betray me. Anyone who watches the video will see how much fun you are. See how pleased you are with what Larry is doing. She gave a devilish grin at the depressed Jen. I guess it's something you can talk to your shrink about later, Camilla said, closing the video. You made quite the impression on Todd tonight. So much so that the boys asked if you might be available for a private show. Todd doesn't know it yet, but tonight he will be spending time with his favorite teacher. Then watch her make all his friends happy, she nodded decisively. Jen didn't know how to process what Camilla had just said. Camilla noticed the blank look on her face and cackled. I made a deal with Todd's friends. They wanted to know if I could find them a girlfriend for tonight. After learning their budget, I asked if they would mind having a look-alike teacher at Todd Middle School instead. The blank look turned to horror as Jen realized what Camilla had done. I can't. What? To spend time with young people for money? Nonsense. You had no problem begging my son for companionship while you watched him, or pleasing 4 men tonight. Come on, Jen, you just got real. The only difference between you and those on the street is that those on the street are aware of who they are. Camilla leaned forward, staring intently into Jen's sheepish eyes. So we're going to go upstairs and you're going to get cleaned up and put on the school teacher outfit we bought tonight. Then you will wait for the guys to show up and enter. After the dance, you will take Todd to one of the rooms and spend some time with him. Jen felt like crawling under a rock and pulling it over her to hide away. What Camilla wanted her to do would force her to cross a line she didn't think she would be able to recover from. Please, Camilla, I can't do this. Isn't there someone else you could get for this? Jen was pleading. She felt hopeful as Camilla seemed to think about it, but the hope was shattered by what Jen heard next. I wish I could find someone else who looks just like you, who wants to hang out with a bunch of 20-something guys, but that's not going to happen. I have someone who will do anything I tell her to do because if she doesn't, I will destroy her whole life. So stop whining and get yourself together. Tonight is going to be a long night otherwise. Camilla leaned back with an evil laugh. Camilla pulled Jen to her feet and started escorting her away from the bar. Jen felt her world crashing around her. She stumbled, tears running down her face as she clutched a tabletop to keep from falling. Camilla noticed that Jen's antics were starting to draw attention. Slipping her arm under Jen's, she helped the sobbing woman to stand and started walking her out. Is everything okay? A hotel security officer asked as they stepped out of the bar. Yeah, her husband went out of town suddenly. She thinks he is having an affair, so she decided it would be a good idea to get drunk. I got her a room so she can sleep it off, Camilla said, playing the good friend. Jen was so lost in herself she missed the conversation completely. The security guard gave Jen a sympathetic look, nodded to Camilla, and moved out of the way. Camilla helped Jen to the elevator and up to the room before throwing the sobbing woman onto the bed. Jen curled into a ball, immediately crying. Camilla let her sob for a few minutes, feeling a little bad for what she had done to another woman who had only been kind and helpful to her. Maybe if life had been different, Camilla would have taken Jen home and erased everything, but she didn't. Money ruled everything, and the sobbing woman on the bed wasn't going to keep her from the $3,000 she was going to make by selling Jen. Enough, Camilla said, having enough of the noise and the feeling it was stirring inside of herself. Seeing that yelling wasn't going to get her anywhere, she grabbed Jen and started stripping the smaller woman. Jen fought back weakly. No, please leave me alone. Jen kept begging over and over. We don't have time for this, Camilla said as she finished undressing Jen. Picking her up like a child, she carried her into the bathroom and put her in the tub, turning on the cold water. It's cold, Jen screamed. So, I know, if you want it warm, throw it. Oh, woe is me, Camilla said as she easily held a freezing Jen under the cold water. Jen was shivering now. trying and failing to break free of the grip Camilla had on her. Realizing that she couldn't win, Jen stopped struggling. Camilla waited a few seconds before turning the temperature of the water up to a comfortable level. Once Jen had warmed up and was no longer shivering, Camilla let her go and handed her a loofah and some soap. Clean everything really good. Camilla watched Jen take a shower for several minutes, not for the first time admiring her figure. Even after having children, Jen's figure was everything Camilla ever wanted for herself. A random thought crossed Camilla's mind. Was jealousy making her use the other woman so hard? Was she trying to see how far she could push the housewife before Jen fell apart? Camilla shook her head. Maybe when she was younger and more naive, she would have worried about it. Having to raise a kid on her own with everyone out to take advantage of her had hardened her to the world. Jen was nothing more than a paycheck that was nice to look at. Camilla had no illusions about friendship. As soon as Jen was able to get away, she would be gone, leaving Camilla on her own again. Camilla let Jen finish her shower, grabbing a couple of pills out of her purse and opening a bottle of water from the minibar. Breaking open the pills, she mixed the powder into the water until it wasn't detectable before taking it to Jen. "Here, drink this," Camilla told Jen as she walked into the bathroom. Jen took the water and drank the whole thing. Maybe she isn't all that bad, Jen thought as she tossed the empty bottle in the trash and started drying her hair. Half an hour later, Jen was dressed and no longer feeling the crippling anxiety that had curled her into a ball earlier. "Remember, you are a high school teacher, and the men here tonight were all your students a few years ago. Are you ready?" Camilla asked Jen. Jen felt great, better than she had in a long time. "I feel strange. What did she give me?" The thought crossed Jen's mind for a moment, but was quickly lost in the noise in her head. "No, Camilla would never do that. She is my friend. Some friend. She is whoring me out. She is so sad. If I kissed her, would she be happy? I wonder if she put something in the water." "Earth to Jen," Camilla said, snapping her fingers in front of Jen's face. "Huh? Oh, sorry," Jen said, shaking her head. "Are you ready?" "Yes," Jen said, realizing how excited she was. Camilla promised many new friends. Friends, Jen thought and started to giggle. I may have given her too much, Camilla thought with a sigh. Camilla guided Jen into the other suite and gave her another water. "Drink this," Camilla said, checking her cell and responding to a few text messages. Jen stood at the window, looking out at the lights from the other buildings. A few minutes later, the door to the suite opened and a group of guys walked in. In the back of the group was Todd. "Todd," Jen said when she saw him, running over to him and giving him a wet kiss. "I am so glad you could make it." "Hi, Miss Kitty," Todd said, laughing as he spun the older woman around before setting her down on slightly unsteady feet. Camilla and one of the guys went to the side. "Do you have the cash?" Camilla asked Robert. Robert pulled an envelope out of his jacket and handed it to Camilla. She opened it and glanced inside, scanning the large stack of $20 bills. $4,000 as we agreed. Robert said, "I still can't get over how much Kitty looks like Mrs. Patterson. God, how I wanted to be with her." Robert said, looking away from Kitty to look at Camilla. "Are you sure she is okay with this?" "Yes, she wants it," Camilla assured him. "Are you going to stick around?" Robert asked, attempting to pull Camilla closer. Camilla wiggled free, putting some distance between them. "No, I will come back in 4 hours to pick her up," Camilla said as she walked over to the wall safe. "If I can get everyone's attention." "Kitty, here will be the entertainment for Todd's birthday party." There were a lot of catcalls, and Jen found herself blushing at all the attention. There are a few rules. First, if you are staying for the fun, your cell phone goes in the safe with everyone else's. Second, no permanent markings or damage to Kitty. Third, she doesn't leave this suite. Any questions? Camilla didn't expect any. These were the conditions that she and Robert had agreed to before. All the guys dropped their cell phones in the safe, and Camilla locked it with a code only she knew. Pulling Jen aside, "Remember, make sure they have fun, and you are not to say no to anything they want to do with you unless it's leaving the suite. Understand?" The drug was making it hard to think straight, but Jen tried anyway. "What if?" "There are no what ifs, Kitty. They paid a lot of money to have you here." Jen frowned but quickly lost the thought that was upsetting her. "Now go have fun," Camilla said. Jen walked over to where Todd sat in a chair. "How do you want to do this?" she asked, suddenly all business. Todd chuckled. How about you dance again? The other guys quickly moved the other furniture away from the chair Todd sat in, giving Jen a path around the chair. Someone turned on the clock radio to some 80s rock, and Jen started dancing. Unlike earlier, Jen wasn't nervous. The drug that Camilla had given her had taken care of that, as well as her inhibitions. I was less than impressed with your last assignment, Todd, Jen said. You were the only student that didn't get 100%. She pulled away when he reached for her. You even missed the extra credit questions. Jen danced around the chair, teasing the men who cheered her on. You're my favorite student, and I couldn't bring myself to grade the test, Jen said as she continued her dance. Several men groaned as she did this. I stayed up all night trying to figure out a way to resolve the problem, and at the same time not punish the rest of the class, Jen said as she turned and dropped to her knees. Then it came to me, I would give you a personal lesson. When she crawled over to Todd, she saw that he was excited. He held Jen tightly against him. Even though it felt good, she pushed his hands away. Tusk, 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 she said as she pulled back and dropped to her knees, looking at Todd. Teacher isn't done with the lesson yet. Jen said, Oh no. Todd said, You keep teasing like that, and the lesson will end before it starts. Does my student want me to speed up his learning? Jen asked as she moved closer to Todd. Oh, please speed up the lesson, Mrs. Patterson. So the teacher was Mrs. Patterson, Jen thought as she helped Todd with his anxiety. Jen began to please Todd. How is my favorite student doing? Fantastic, Todd said, unable to take his eyes off Jen, who was working. Wow, Todd exclaimed, grabbing the arms of the chair. Ready to take my oral exam? God, yes. Jen smiled and pleasured him again and again. Todd began to tremble as he felt the pleasure. Which one of my other students is next? Robert pushed the other boys away and stood in front of her with great excitement. Think you can handle a teacher killer? Robert asked, provoking Jen. Yes, my boy, Jen said, pulling Robert closer to her and beginning to pleasure him. Jen was almost disappointed when he gave up within a minute. Next, Robert smiled, shuffling away. Jen has lost count of how many guys she's dated after 5. Things began to blur, her mind no longer able to distinguish between people. She felt sick when someone approached her. Pushing away the boy in front of her, she looked back to see Robert approaching her. Hold on, student, Jen said, her voice sounding harsh. Robert stopped, looking a little sheepish. It's Todd's birthday. He gets to talk to the teacher first, Jen said, looking at Todd, who was standing off to the side looking at her. Robert laughed. She is right. Come here, Todd, and do it. Jen smiled at Todd as their eyes met and waited for him to get closer before she looked at the boy in front of her. Excuse me, where were we? Jen raised an eyebrow at the boy. The guy answered, and they continued to hang out. Jen was in heaven, enjoying herself every few minutes. I am satisfied, Todd shouted happily. Robert quickly took his place, spending time with Jen. I've dreamed of talking to Mrs. Patterson for years, said Robert, doing unusual things. Come on, Timmy, let's show Mrs. Patterson how we can study, said Robert. Timmy, the man in front, along with Robert, worked smoothly. Jen was the first to enjoy herself, followed by the 2 boys. Jen was so weak that Robert had to pick her up as he led her to the chair and flipped her over onto the back to chat with the next guy. Come on, you need to take a shower, Jen. You smell awful, Camilla said as she shook the unconscious Jen, trying to wake her up. What? Where am I? Jen asked, trying, unsuccessfully, to push herself into a sitting position on the bed. You are at the hotel, Camilla said, like it answered everything. Which hotel? Jen was still confused, taking her time getting out of the sheets. The one you crashed in after the party last night, Camilla said, helping Jen swing her legs off the bed. What party? The one you danced for, Camilla said as she wrapped Jen in a towel. Why did I do it? The fog does not clear. They paid you for this, Camilla said as she helped Jen to the bathroom. Camilla turned on the water and helped Jen in. When the water hit her, Jen stood up a little and washed the dirt off herself. Camilla looked Jen in the eyes. Looks like you had a good time. Jen was shocked. She remembered nothing after getting out of the car with Camilla yesterday. Camilla pulled out some other personal care items. Make sure you keep yourself clean. No one wants to be friends with dirty people. Do you understand? Jen nodded, her tears mixing with the water as she washed her hair. Camilla helped Jen get dressed in some sweats, and 20 minutes later, they were back at Camilla's apartment. "Hey, Donald," Camilla said as she opened the door and ushered Jen inside. "Hey, Mom," Donald said, hugging his mom and looking hungrily at Jen. Camilla noticed the way her son looked at the younger woman and smiled. "Sorry, I interrupted your fun yesterday. We had some places to be. I am sure Jen won't mind taking care of things for you before she goes home," Camilla said, giving her sub a stern look. Jen didn't say anything as Donald led her toward his bedroom. "You know, honey, why don't you play with your toy in the living room instead?" Donald looked at his mom nervously. "I know what you've been doing here while I've been gone. Maybe we can both be with her. Do you want a little mother/son play?" Donald looked at the floor, ashamed, but he still nodded his head. "Wonderful." Jen looked at Camilla sternly. "Begin, Camilla." I don't care. Take off your clothes or I'll do it for you. Believe me, if I do, I'll send you back to your apartment without your clothes on." Jen complied, standing in the living room between mother and son. "Get him hard," Camilla ordered. Donald didn't know where to look. His mother was sitting on the sofa without clothes. He dreamed of doing the same. His attention turned to Jen, who began to pleasure him. He loved it very much. "Do you like how she spends time with you, baby?" "Yes, Mommy," Donald said, a shudder going through him. "I think we need to change positions," Camilla ordered. They spent time together. Jen turned back to Camilla and her son was behind. For Jen, it was torture. She just wanted them both to be satisfied so she could go home and take a long hot bath. "I'm going to have fun, Mom." "Okay. Do it." Donald, Jen, and Camilla all enjoyed themselves at the same time. For a few seconds, the three of them were in their own little worlds, but all good things must come to an end. Camilla got up and put her pants back on, tossing Jen her clothes. "Get dressed. I will call you when I need you again." Donald pulled up his pants and went to his room as Jen slowly pulled her clothes on and left. Back in her apartment, Jen moved on autopilot. She made a hot bath, adding salts and soaking until the water was cold. Once out of the tub, she checked her phone. 7 missed calls from Stan and 3 from Becky. Jen quickly texted both, letting them know she was fine and that she would call them later. Hoping she had belayed their concerns, Jen crawled into bed and fell into a troubled sleep. Becky read the text from her mother. "Sorry, sweetie. I just got your message. I was home all day and didn't realize that I had phone issues until I tried sending a text." That's a lie, Becky thought. She was worried when her mother did not respond to her messages. She still had financial aid papers for her mother to sign, so she went to her parents' apartment to check on her, only to find the apartment empty and her mother's purse and phone on the table. Other than normal childhood things, like the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus, her mother had never lied to her before until recently. Now it seemed like it was becoming a habit. Something was going on, and Becky was going to find out what. Stan glanced at his phone and saw the message from Jen. "Sorry, Stan. I just got your message. I didn't realize that I had phone issues until I tried sending a text to Becky. Everything okay?" He glanced over at Cindy, still asleep next to him, and felt a little guilty as he sent a text back. "Everything is fine. Have to get ready for a meeting with a client. Hope you have a nice day. Love you." Stan waited a few seconds, and when he didn't get an answer, he put the phone down and snuggled up to Cindy, enjoying the feeling of her warmth.
Subscribe to our channel so that your second C gaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.